gentlemen. We are finally ready this morning to continue. Apologize for the slight delay. We were taking care of other issues that had to be accomplished outside your presence. We have completed that, and we are prepared to proceed. So I will turn to the defense. Do you have further evidence that you wish to offer?
No, Your Honor. The defense would rest at this point in time.
Okay. All right. State of Ohio, do you have any rebuttal evidence that you wish to present?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. This time the state would call Colleen McKernan to the stand.
May we approach, Your Honor? Raise your right hand for me, please. You solemnly swear to testify the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Kathleen, if you would, state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
Kathy McKernan, McKernan.
And Kathy, where do you live?
3454 Hilton Street, Northwest, Lot 15, Massillon, Ohio.
And how long have you lived there?
It'll be 5 years.
And who do you live with?
I live with Mike Fornbaugh.
Rob McKernan was your son.
Yes,
Were you and Rob close?
very,
Spend a lot of time together?
yes.
In September, October, November, December of 2014, where was Rob employed?
Frank's Casing.
And what was that?
It oil, they work on oil rigs, and he was a tool pusher. He was promoted to a tool pusher.
Did he have set hours?
No, he was on call 24/7.
I want to take your attention back, Kathy, to November 23rd, 2014.
Okay.
Actually, to the 22nd. Were you aware of what Rob and Colleen did on November 22nd, where they went?
Yes.
And were you aware, was there something planned for the 23rd as a result of where they went on the 22nd?
Yes, there was.
What were the plans to be?
It was a dinner over at Rob and Colleen's house.
And who was to go to that dinner?
Myself, Mike, and Rob's oldest sister, Michelle.
Now, on the 23rd of November 2014, did you have an occasion to see Rob?
Yes, the morning of the 23rd.
Do you recall approximately what time it was?
Approximately 8:30 in the morning,
And where was he?
he came to my home.
When he came to your home, what was his emotional demeanor?
He was very upset. And
What indicators or what did you see that led you to believe that he was very upset?
he was pacing, he was just visibly upset. And, you know, I could tell something wasn't right.
Did you ask him what was wrong?
Yes, I did.
Did he tell you what was wrong?
He said, I guess, according to my wife, I was an asshole last night. And I said, what happened? And he said that she said I drank too much, and we were at a bar, and she wanted to go home, and I didn't want to go home, and I was doing shots with a couple buddies of mine. And they were arguing, I guess, at the bar because he didn't want to leave.
What else did he tell you?
He told me that my wife says that I drink too much.
And what did you say?
I have a drinking problem, then you need to do something about it. And he said, I love Colleen, I want my marriage to work, I will do what I have to do.
Approximately how long was Rob at your house?
I would say about an hour and a half.
And how did Rob get home?
He had asked Mike if Mike would drive his Trailblazer home. He didn't want to drive, and Mike said yes. So I followed them over, and then Mike got out of his Trailblazer when he got him home, and he went into the house, and we came home.
Later that day, did you have any communication with Colleen?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time?
It was in the mid-afternoon, maybe around 2-ish.
How did that communication take place?
She called me, I believe.
And what did she indicate to you?
She told me that the dinner that she had planned was canceled.
Did she give you a reason why?
She said that Rob was in bed and he wouldn't get up and help her clean the house.
What was your response to that?
I said, that's fine.
Did you hear from her again that day?
Yes, it was an hour to maybe 2 hours after that phone call. She called me and she said, is it okay if I bring dinner to you and Mike? And I says, Colleen, you don't have to do that. And she says, well, I've already cooked it. I might as well bring it over. And I said, okay, that's fine.
Did she show up?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time?
It was probably within a half hour of the phone call.
And what did she have with her?
She had pork chops, I believe, baked potatoes or twice baked potatoes, and I think a vegetable.
And when she comes to the house, where do you all go?
We sit in our kitchen, at our kitchen table.
Did you have dinner?
Yes.
Was there any discussion during dinner?
There was minimal discussion. You know, she was saying that she was upset with Rob from drinking too much the night before, and she said, you know, your son was a real asshole last night and embarrassed me in front of my friends and my coworkers.
After dinner, did Colleen stick around for a little bit?
A little bit, yes.
And where did you all go from the dinner table? What room?
We went into the living room.
Was Colleen carrying anything with her at that time?
Yes, she was carrying a spit bottle because she chewed tobacco.
In the living room, did you have any further discussion?
Yes.
And what did that discussion entail?
It was regarding, again, Rob's drinking, and she proceeded to tell me the night before that they got into an argument about his debit card when he returned home from the bar, because she left the bar before him and somebody brought him home.
Did she give you details about that argument?
She said that when he came home, she was lying on the couch with one of the dogs. And Rob came in and said, I want my debit card. And she said, no. And he said, I needed to go to an ATM to give my buddy, to lend my buddy some money. And she kept saying, no, no, no. And he kept insisting on it. And she told me that he picked her up and slammed her back on the couch. And then she said he proceeded to tear up the house looking for his debit card. And I believe she said that he ended up finding it, or he found it because he was tearing up some things in the house looking for it, or she just went ahead and gave in and gave it to him.
Did she tell you, other than picking him up or picking her up and slamming her on the couch, that he did anything else to her?
I asked her, I said, did he hit you? And she said, no, he didn't hit me. He just threw me back on the couch.
Did she tell you that he grabbed her by her hair and drug her down the hall?
No,
Did she tell you that she kicked him in the groin?
no,
Did she tell you that the dog bit him?
no,
When Rob came over in the morning, did he complain about a dog bite?
no.
When she told you this, what did you say?
What did I say? I asked her if he hit her. But she just, she said no, again. Probably, I want to say maybe 20 to 25 minutes.
Did she ever say anything else to you that evening?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She said, no man is going to lay his hands on me. And she looked at Mike and I and she said, I'm telling the both of you right now that if he ever lays his hands on me again, I will shoot, and I will shoot to kill him.
Kathleen, when you heard that, what was your reaction?
I said, what are you saying, Colleen?
Did she respond?
No. I said, that's my son.
How long did she stay at your residence after she made that statement?
Not long. Maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Kathy, prior to that day, had Colleen ever picked Bentley up at your house?
Did she what?
Ever picked Bentley up from your home?
Yes.
What was Bentley's reaction when she showed up to pick her up?
He threw a fit. He didn't want to go with her.
And did that create a discussion between you and Colleen?
Yes, it did.
What was that discussion about?
Well, Bentley was throwing a fit, and he was screaming and crying, and he sat down on the floor, and he kept saying, Grandma, I don't want to go with her. So I told Colleen, I said, just leave him here. And she said, no. And her voice got loud. She said, he's not being given into again. This is what the problem is with him. Rob and I just had a discussion and an argument about this. Because he won't discipline him like he needs to be disciplined. Then she said he pissed me off and I punched him in the mouth.
When she said he pissed him off and she punched him in the mouth, she wasn't talking about Bentley, was she?
No, she was talking about Rob, the argument they had about disciplining Bentley.
How did you find out Rob had set a wedding date?
He had called me and said that Colleen had asked him to marry her. And I said, and what are you going to do? And he said, I told her I would marry her. And I says, well, when is the wedding? And he says, April 24th at Hocking Hills.
So he said Colleen had asked him to marry her.
Correct.
He didn't propose to her.
No.
And the wedding was the 24th at Hocking Hills. When you heard that, did you ask about what you should do?
He says, I have to tell you, Mom, that you and Mike are not allowed to come to the wedding. And I says, why? And he says,
As to her basis for knowledge for that, there's been nothing established.
I'll lay a foundation, Your Honor. Colleen was at your house was at Rob's father's house for Christmas in December of 2013, correct?
yeah,
And do you recall that yourself and Mike gave her a Christmas present at that point in time?
we didn't give it to her there.
But you did give her a Christmas present?
Yes.
And you don't deny that that Christmas present was the bullets that were actually found in the gun, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. If I could just have a moment, Your Honor. Mrs. McKernan, you made a statement earlier about, I think it was something to the effect that Colleen had punched Rob in the mouth. Do you recall making that statement during direct testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you haven't provided that statement to Detective Golicki or anyone else prior to today, correct?
No.
And the same with your testimony about certainly didn't provide that information to Detective Golicki or anyone else prior to today, correct?
No. Not that I don't,
Okay, when you're saying no, Mrs. McKernan, you haven't provided that to anyone else, is that correct?
about,
Bentley's Christmas present.
we talked about it in the family. Did I tell Detective Goki that? No.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Briefly. When did you speak to Detective Golke?
It was New Year's Day morning, early, like 4 o'clock in the morning.
And you had just found out Rob had been murdered.
Yes.
Did Detective Golke ask you about any other instances when you spoke to him?
He asked me if they ever had any domestic between the two. And I said no. I thought he meant like court domestic.
Did he ask you about Christmas presents?
And I don't know.
Mrs. McKernan, did you have Detective Golke's information after the interview? Did he give you a card or his telephone number?
Not to me.
Did he give it to Mike?
I believe so.
Okay, and Mike lives with you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. At no point in time did you contact Detective Golke with the number that you had to provide any of these additional statements that you've said today, correct?
I didn't. I don't know what Mike said to Detective Golke.
Okay, thank you. I just need one moment. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. McKernan, you may step down. Thank you. If you have another witness, you may call your next witness. State
They
of
would
Ohio.
call Brittany Martin.
No, you need to rephrase her.
Brittany, I know you've already testified, but again, tell us your name
Brittany Martin,
and spell your last name for the court reporter.
Martin.
Brittany, I want to take your attention back to December 31st, 2014, and the party at your house. You had conversations with Rob that night.
Yeah,
Did you notice Rob's wedding ring?
I did.
And how is it that you recall noticing Rob's wedding ring?
We were sitting in the dining room. Some of us, I don't remember who all was in there at that point. And Rob was leaning up against my doorway, like his arm up, and the light had caught it. And I'd probably seen it before, but I guess I just never made notice to it. So, hey Rob, let me see your ring. I've never seen it before. And he kind of did like the girl thing and held it out to me. And, we kind of fussed about it for a minute and laughed, and that was it.
And when he left that night, did you find your ring in his house?
Did I find his ring in my house?
Yeah.
No, I still haven't.
So he didn't leave it behind?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any questions?
Hello again, Ms. Martin.
Hi.
So your testimony is on December 31st, 2014. You didn't see a wedding ring on Rob McKernan's finger. Is that right?
I did.
Or you did see it? Excuse
Yes.
me. Okay. Now, Colleen and Rob had been married for how long at that point?
I honestly don't know.
So
A few months, several months.
Would it surprise you to know that they were married in April?
I knew it was in the spring. I couldn't recall the month.
But if it was April, would that surprise you?
No.
Okay. How many times had you seen Rob between April and New Year's Eve 2014?
A few times.
And you had never seen his wedding ring before?
Objection, that's not what she said, Your Honor.
Sustained, and actually, the objection's overruled. Just ask your question clearly so that she knows what you're asking.
So you said you'd never seen the wedding ring, Rob's wedding ring, before the night of December 31st, 2014, right?
I never made a point of making a deal about it and checking it out. But I'd seen him wear it.
Okay. So you're aware that it was a black ring, right?
Yes.
Okay, kind of matte color?
I don't recall that.
Okay, but your testimony is that you noticed it? Okay. But again, on December 31st, 2014, after they left your house, you have no idea what happened, do you?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing further.
All right, thank you, Ms. Martin. You can step down again. State, do you have another witness?
Yes, Your Honor, the state of Ohio calls Kelly Bonifant.
Raise your right hand for me, please. You solemnly swear to testify the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your Honor, may I make a question?
You may. Which side? You're going over there if you want it.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Ma'am, can you please give us your full name and spell your last name for us?
Kelly Bonifant, Bonifant.
And which town or township do you reside?
Maslin.
And Prior to today's date, did you know Robert and Colleen McKernan?
Yes.
And let's start with Rob. How long have you known Rob McKernan?
About 3 years.
All right, 3 years. So those would be which years? Would you say you first met him?
2013.
If he passed in 2014, would that alter your date?
I'm sorry.
If he passed in 2014?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. So 2012,
Okay.
2011, I'm not sure.
All right, if you can just make sure you keep your voice up, speak into the microphone so the court reporter can hear you clearly. Thank you. And how long had you known Colleen?
Since our senior year of high school.
And where did you go to high school together?
Harry.
And would you say that you knew her well?
Pretty well.
And my understanding is after high school, there was some gap, I guess you could say, in your friendship.
Yes.
All right. And do you recall when in high school, I think you said senior year?
Yes.
All right. And after senior year of high school, when did this gap occur in your friendship?
After we graduated.
Okay. And when was the next time you had contact with her?
A few years later,
All right. And how and where did that happen?
she came home for leave and we got in contact.
Okay. So when you say leave from where?
The military.
Okay. And you got into contact at that point.
Yes.
Did that contact continue?
No.
All right. So there was another gap.
Yes.
All right. And when's the next time you had contact with her?
It would have been 2008.
Okay. And let me ask you this. At some point in time, did Colleen return back to Massillon permanently?
Yes.
All right. Did you make contact and have contact with her at that time?
Yes.
And from the time that she moved back to Massillon, was your contact continuous from that point on?
Yes.
All right. And during the time that you have known Colleen, so when did you graduate high school?
2006.
All right. So 2006 to 2014, let's say, how much time would you say you spent with Colleen?
Quite a bit.
All right. Now, how would you describe Colleen in your relationship?
We were best friends.
Okay. And how would you describe Colleen?
As a very confident woman.
Okay. And specifically, let me ask you this. Do you recall when Rob and Colleen met?
November of 2013.
And how did they meet?
Rob came over to our house and Colleen was there.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So you were friends with Colleen, correct?
Correct.
Had you met Rob at that point?
Yes.
Okay. How long before that introduction had you met Rob?
Probably about a year.
And how had you met Rob?
He was friends with Alex,
All right. And who was Alex?
my boyfriend.
And how long had you and Alex been together?
At that point, 7 years.
Okay. And what is your understanding of how long Alex and Rob had known each other?
For a long time, since they were young.
Okay. All right. So you were friends with Colleen, Alex was good friends with Rob.
Yes.
Okay. And you talked about them being at your house this particular time. Would you say that the two of you introduced them?
Yes.
Now, shortly after that introduction between Rob and Colleen, did Colleen leave for some period of time?
Yes.
All right. Do you know where she went?
Texas.
And do you know why she went to Texas?
Something with the military. type
Okay.
of Training.
And while she was in Texas, did you continue to communicate?
Yes.
And how would you communicate? Telephone, anything like that?
Through text messages.
Okay. And when did you learn of Rob and Colleen's engagement?
A couple weeks after she had left.
Okay. Now, do you know and recall how long she had left for Texas? How long she was gone?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay. So is it your testimony today that it was during the middle of that 6 weeks or sometime during that 6 weeks that you learned of the engagement?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Objection's overruled. You can continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Kelly, who told you about the engagement?
Colleen did. Thank you.
Do you recall approximately when Colleen and Rob got married?
April of 2014.
And did you go to the wedding?
I did.
And Alex went as well, correct?
Yes.
Now, prior to her relationship with Rob, did you and Colleen discuss your relationships?
Yes.
And prior to her relationship with Rob, did you about those relationships?
Yes.
Now we're going to start from the time that Colleen and Rob met to the time that they were married in April of 2014. Can you approximate for us how often you would spend time with or talk with Colleen?
From the time they met, we still talked quite a bit.
Okay. And did you spend any time together?
Yes.
And at any point in time during, again, prior to the marriage, after their relationship started to their marriage, were you ever in a position to see Colleen in a manner that you would be able to see if she had any injuries on her body?
Yes.
And how was that?
We would go to the gym together.
And which gym was that?
Planet Fitness.
Okay. And was this a gym visit where you'd go in dressed, you'd go work out, and then leave?
No.
Okay. Was there something in the process that you would have been able to observe her?
We would shower sometimes after we got done.
Okay. So you would use their facilities, change clothes, etc.
Correct.
Okay. And other than you and Colleen going to the gym, did anyone else ever go with you?
Rob went with us a few times.
Okay. And my understanding is at some point in time going to the gym stopped.
Yes,
All right. Who stopped going to the gym first?
I did.
Okay. And do you know whether or not Rob or Colleen continued going to the gym after you stopped going?
I'm not sure, but I believe so.
Okay. Now, during those times, from the time they met to the time that they were married, and the time that you spent with Colleen, did she ever confide in you with any problems that she was having with her relationship with Rob?
No.
Did you ever observe on her any injuries of any sort, scratches, bruises, anything during your time from the time they met to the time of their marriage?
No, I did not.
Did she ever indicate or tell you about any altercations she may have had with Rob or shown you any injuries she may have suffered during them?
No.
Now we're going from the marriage to December 31st of 2014, okay?
Okay.
Again, how often did you talk to Colleen during this period of time?
Not as much as before.
Okay. Did you see her as often?
No.
And my understanding is during this period of time, they got puppies.
Correct.
All right. Did Rob and Colleen still come to your residence after they got married?
Occasionally.
Okay. And during that period of time, did these puppies interfere with any of the plans that you would have for the evening?
Not really.
Okay. Well, let me ask it this way. Did anyone ever have to do anything to take care of the puppies that you observed when they were maybe at your residence or you were out together?
Yes.
Okay. What did you observe happening?
Rob went home to take care of the dogs during a party that we were having.
Okay. Now, during this particular period of time, I know you said you spoke to Colleen, correct?
Correct.
Did you see Colleen?
Occasionally.
Okay. And can you describe for us what occasionally is?
Every couple weeks, maybe.
Okay. And during that period of time, did Colleen confide in you and any problems that she was having with her relationship with Rob?
No.
Did you notice any injuries to Colleen's body during this period of time?
No.
Did Colleen ever complain to you or show you any injuries that she had suffered in her relationship with Rob?
No.
Were there any injuries that you may have observed that she chalked up to something else, such as, oh, I fell, anything like that?
No.
From the time that Colleen and Rob met to December 31st, 2014, did you observe any changes to Colleen's personality or demeanor in any way?
No, I did not.
Now, you indicated that you were at the wedding, correct?
Correct.
And had you seen Rob to the extent that you would have? Okay. And how? With Rob, if he wasn't wearing his ring, where would you see it?
I never really saw him.
Is there any Rob's wedding ring?
She did wear it once around a necklace.
Okay. And do you know where Rob was at that time?
He was at work.
Okay. Now, were you familiar with Rob's employment?
Yes.
All right. What is your understanding as to his hours or his schedule?
He worked different hours all the time. He would be away for quite a while.
And during the time that Rob was at work or away for work, would you spend any time with Colleen?
Sometimes.
Okay. And did you have any girls' nights out?
Yes.
All right. And was that something that continued throughout the relationship?
It kind of dwindled off.
Okay. During the time that Rob and Colleen got together, to December 31st, 2014, did Colleen ever come to your residence after she and Rob had an argument?
No.
What about Rob?
Yes.
How often would that happen?
I can think of 2 occasions where he did.
Okay. And were those occasions where he showed up at your front door?
No.
Okay. How do you know, and what did you do with regards to Rob leaving the residence?
One time we picked him up on Hills and Dales. He was walking with a bag of stuff. And then the second time he had called Alex and asked if he could come over.
Okay. During the time that you've known Colleen, have you ever seen her with a gun?
Yes.
All right. Where did you see it?
In her car.
And where were you and how were you able to see it?
I was in the passenger seat.
Okay. And where was it in the car?
In the center console.
Was that one time or more than once?
Just once.
Now, I'm going to ask you about some specific dates and incidents at this point in time, okay?
Okay.
going to bring you back to summer of 2013. There has been some issue of an incident that occurred at Lou's Bar in Perry Township.
Okay.
Do you recall that night?
Well, I think she's setting it up and that would be overruled, but the date again was when?
Summer of 2000. I think I got my date wrong. You're correct. Summer of 2014.
Oh, I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same time frame.
Yes.
Okay. You can continue.
Do you recall going to Loewe's Bar and then Lou's Bar with Rob and Colleen in summer of 2014?
I recall going to Lou's.
Okay. You don't recall a Loewe's?
I don't.
Okay. And can you describe for us Lou's Bar parking lot? How is it laid out with regard to the main street?
It's the parking is pretty much all on the side of the building.
Okay. And do you recall who else was with you that evening?
My boyfriend Alex, my friend Megan, and Ashley, and Colleen and Rob.
All right. And do you recall an incident occurring at Lou's?
I do.
And who was involved in that incident?
Colleen and Rob.
And where were you when you observed this?
In the parking lot.
And where in the parking lot?
Towards it would have been facing like Tusk, and they were over in the side.
Okay. And can you tell us when this occurred in relation to your arrival at Lou's?
Shortly after our arrival.
Okay. Had you gone into the building yet?
I had.
All right. And do you recall whether or not Colleen and Rob had gone into the building yet?
I don't recall.
Okay. All right. So what brought you back outside?
I was on my phone.
All right. And while you were out in the parking lot, what did you hear and observe?
I heard them arguing, and then I turned around and saw Colleen punch Rob in the face.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Can we approach?
You may.
Kelly, prior to observing Colleen punch Rob in the face, did you observe Rob touch her in any way?
No.
After observing her punch him in the face, did you observe Rob touch her in any way?
No.
After that altercation, who left?
Colleen did.
Where did she go?
She walked to her grandma's.
Okay, how do you know that?
We tried calling her quite a few times, and she finally picked up and told me where she was.
And how did you, let me ask you this, at some point in time, did you find her and make contact with her again?
I don't recall.
Okay. And where was Rob?
Walking around with me looking for her.
Okay, so the two of you then went looking for Colleen?
Correct.
Now, Kelly, I'm going to bring you back to the early morning hours of November 14th of 2014.
Okay,
Do you recall that date?
I do.
Do you recall what you were doing that morning?
I was getting ready for work.
And what do you do?
I do home care.
And approximately what time did you have to be at work that morning?
Somewhere between 8 and 8:30.
And who was also at the residence with you that morning?
Alex and our children.
And how many children do you have?
2,
What are their ages?
7 and 4.
And did Alex have to go to work that day?
I believe so.
All right. And what time would Alex normally work?
He has his own shop, so he makes his own hours.
Okay. And if you were at work and the children at home, who would remain with the children?
Alex.
And do you recall whether or not on that particular day Alex was home with the children at any time while you were at work?
Yes.
And do you know how long he was home that day with the children while you were at work?
All day.
All right. What is all day?
From about 8:30 till whenever I get home, it varies.
Okay. And when approximately would you get home for a normal work day?
Around 4.
Okay. And do you have a specific recollection of coming home that particular day with Alex and the children being home?
Yes.
Now, did something unusual happen that morning?
Yes.
And what, without going into specifics, in general, what was unusual about that particular morning?
Rob came over.
All right. And do you recall approximately what time that was?
It was probably about 7:30.
In the morning?
Yes.
And did Rob usually come to your house that early in the morning?
No.
And when you observed Rob, let me ask you this. When and where did you first see him at your residence that morning?
I had looked out the window when he pulled up, and Alex had gone outside to talk to him.
Okay. And so he pulls up in his truck, Alex goes outside.
Correct.
You were not part of that conversation. Observed Rob in your kitchen that morning. Could you describe for the jury what his physical and emotional state was?
Sure. He was very upset, crying. His eyes were very red. I'd never seen Rob in that state before.
And I believe you had said you had known Rob at that point for about 3 years?
Yes.
And had you seen him upset about things before?
Not like that.
Not like that, okay. And when you did speak to him, was there any general indicators as to the time of the incident that he was upset about?
Not really.
Okay. Now, when you observed him, did he speak to you about an incident?
Yes.
While he was speaking to you about this incident, did his demeanor remain the same?
Yes.
Okay. Did he calm down at any time prior to telling you about the incident?
Somewhat.
Okay. And when you say somewhat, can you describe that?
He stopped crying for a minute until he finished telling me, and then he started crying again.
Okay. When Rob told you about what happened, did he give you an indication as to when this incident he was talking about had occurred?
No.
Did he give you a specific date
No.
or general statement?
Just a general statement.
Okay. And what was it that Rob told you?
He told me.
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach?
You may continue, Ms. Day.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to get some more specifics, okay? What time did Rob arrive approximately at your house?
Around 7:30.
And approximately how long after that was it that you had a conversation with him in your kitchen?
About 10 to 15 minutes later.
All right, and did he remain at your house during that entire period of time?
Yes.
And during your conversations with him, could you give us a description of his tone of voice?
He was very soft-spoken. His voice was a little shaky.
Okay, and was that how Rob normally talked?
No.
And what about his physical appearance? I know you mentioned crying, but was there anything about his physical stance that you noted?
He was kind of sitting, like, slumped a little bit. Wasn't sitting upright like he normally would.
And when I had asked you about his emotional demeanor, did he have that emotional demeanor at the time that he walked into your residence?
Yes.
And did it continue up to the time that you had the conversation with him in your kitchen?
Yes.
Did that emotional demeanor remain during the time that you were conversing with him about the incident he told you about?
Yes.
And I believe you testified that he can strike that. Did that emotional demeanor and your observations as to his demeanor and emotional status continue after your conversation with him ended and prior to you leaving for work?
Yes.
And approximately how long was it after you completed this conversation with him and then you would have left for work?
Probably 5 or 10 minutes.
And during the time that you completed this conversation with him and you left, were you still able to observe Rob during that period of time?
Yes.
Do you recall where he went after you completed this conversation at the kitchen table?
He was still at the table when I left.
Okay. And who was he at the table with?
Alex.
Do you know whether he and Alex were continuing to talk?
I don't know.
I believe you had indicated that you had seen Rob on numerous occasions upset.
Yes.
Has he ever been this upset to your observations?
No.
How would you describe his level of being upset? Was it minor? How would you describe it?
It was pretty major.
And during any period of time, from the time that he arrived at the residence until the time that you left, did Rob tear up in any manner?
Yes.
All right, when was that?
When he was crying before he told me what had happened, and then he told me what happened, and he started crying again.
Did he, I'm sorry, maybe you didn't understand my question.
I'm sorry.
Did he cheer up? Did he get?
Oh, I thought you said tear up. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I figured that was maybe what happened. Did he ever cheer up before you left?
No, he did not.
Your Honor, may we approach it this time?
You don't need to approach. Go ahead and keep asking.
All right.
I mean, just go ahead and ask.
And what did Rob tell you about that particular evening?
Objection, Your Honor.
Noted, overruled.
That evening,
I apologize, I misspoke. What did Rob tell you in the kitchen that morning after he arrived?
he told me that his marriage was over and that Colleen hated him and she wanted a divorce.
Okay. Did she tell you of any particular incident that had occurred between the two of them?
He said yes.
All right. And what did he tell you about that incident?
He told me that she put a gun in his face.
And did he indicate to you when that had occurred?
No.
Did he tell you whether or not that had occurred months ago?
No.
Did he indicate to you whether or not that was what he was upset about?
Yes.
Now, it's my understanding that you went to work, correct?
Correct.
And Alex remained at the home.
Yes.
And after this incident, were you going through any items and found any particular items with regards to this November 14th early morning?
Yes.
All right. First of all, what item were you looking through?
Our iPad.
Okay. And were you looking through the iPad for any particular reason?
No.
Who had access to that iPad in your residence?
Everybody in the house.
Okay. And when you say everybody, you mean you, Alex, and your 2 children, correct? Do they all use the iPad?
Yes.
Okay. And did the iPad have any kind of lock code or anything on it?
No.
And what is that iPad capable of doing other than accessing the internet and playing games?
It can take pictures.
Okay. And was it common for this particular item to be used to take pictures?
With the children, yes.
All right. And who would normally take pictures with that item?
My boys.
The boys would do it? Okay. And I believe you said one was 4
And 7.
and 7. And back in 2014, what were their ages?
They would have been 5 and 3.
5 and 3. Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, 5 and 2.
5 and 2. Okay. I know, math. I'm sorry.
Terrible.
Okay. And prior to reviewing your iPad and going through these items, were you aware that any photographs existed from the early morning hours of November 14th?
I was not.
And when you found those items, were you able to determine when those items were taken?
Yes.
All right. And how was that done?
We sent the picture to Alex's brother. He's kind of a techie person, and he was able to pull the date from it and the time that it was taken.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, before we get to the item, overruled at this point. I'll allow you to explore on cross. Go ahead.
And can you describe for us in the iPad, does it tell you on the face of the picture when it's taken? Is there any timestamps or anything?
It gives a time frame.
Okay.
So any pictures that we're taking, like in November through November 1st through November 30th.
Okay. So when you found the item, you were able to determine a general time frame.
Correct.
Okay. And then you requested someone pull up the data for the particular photos?
Correct.
And was that done and provided to you?
Yes.
I'm not going to publish, Your Honor, I'm just going to show. I'm going to show you what's been previously marked from the state by State's Exhibits 31A, B, C, and D. Just going to show you these items and have you look at them briefly. You could look at those 4 items and tell me what they appear to be.
They are pictures from our iPad and the camera information it has.
And were those I should say, there's 2
pages that have camera information on it.
Okay.
Just so I can clear the letter, 31A is a photograph, correct?
Correct.
Okay, 31B is a photograph?
There's 3 photos on
Okay,
there.
3 photos on 31B, and then
Yes.
31C and D are information relating.
Correct.
Okay.
And we'll start with 31B. I believe you said there's multiple photos on that particular page, correct?
Correct.
How many?
3.
And on that particular page, I believe you had described how the iPad describes photographs in generality, date-wise.
Correct.
Okay. Does State's Exhibit 31B accurately show that?
It does.
And what does it show for the date range on those 3 photographs?
November 14th and 15th of 2014.
Okay. And going back to 31A, is that the photograph that you found?
Yes.
And is that the photograph that you then requested additional information with regard to the specific date and time.
Yes.
And can you tell us where that photograph was taken?
That was taken on our couch.
Okay.
In the living room.
And how can you tell that about that photograph?
That's our couch.
Okay. All right, so it's got your couch on it, right? Anything else in that photo that identifies it as being taken at your particular residence?
My son is in it.
All right, which son?
My youngest.
Your youngest. So the one that would have been
2.
2? Okay. And who else is in the photograph?
Rob.
And is that particular picture a fair and accurate representation of what your living room looked like on November 14th of 2014, as well as what your son looked like?
Yes.
And with regards to State's Exhibits C, 31C and 31D, I believe you stated that that was the information with regards to that particular photo. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I believe it's on 31D. Does it provide any information with regards to the time and date noted by the iPad with regard to that particular photo?
Yes.
And what is the date and time that is time-stamped on that document?
Objection, Your Honor.
I haven't seen the document, so approach, let me look at it.
Yes, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained as to that particular question. You may ask a different question.
All right, Kelly, I'm showing you again State's Exhibits 31A and 31B. When you found those particular photographs, were you able to determine based on your own review of the items on your iPad and what you were able to personally pull up as to when State's Exhibit 31A had been taken?
By the dates, yes.
Okay, and what were the dates?
November 14th, between the 14th and the 15th.
Okay, and did you have personal observation of Robert McKernan at your residence on November 14th or November 15th?
14th.
Had he been at your house at the 15th?
No.
And in that particular photograph, and looking at the photographs that surrounded it, can you able to determine, based on either what your son was wearing or what Robert was wearing as to when approximately this photograph would have been taken?
It would have been the same day.
Okay. And how do you know it would have been the same day?
My son has on the same shirt.
Okay. May I have one moment, Your Honor? I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 10:34, we are due for our morning break, so I'm going to ask that we take it now, so that we can all have a chance to refresh ourselves. Do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not allow anyone to discuss it in your presence. Do not form or express an opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. We're just going to take about a 10-minute recess for a restroom break, and we will come down to the jury assembly room at 10:45 to retrieve you for the balance of the morning. Thank you. We are in recess.